In 1999, Dr. Jack Lane wrote Just What is the Fourth Commandment? Here are some key ideas to help you navigate this article. Dr. Lane said that it seems most church-going people are confident that the commandment says, keep the Sabbath. Is that true? Actually, it says to keep it holy. Exodus 20, verse 8. The commandment is comprised of 8 words in English, but only 4 in Hebrew. The final phrase, to keep it holy, is from one word, Kodash, Strong's 6942. If you look at the George Ricker Berry interlinear, at the top of the screen, you'll see it is comprised of 4 Hebrew words. Remember, from the right to the left, the day of the Sabbath to sanctify it, that last word is Kodash. So if we jump over to another interlinear, let's take a look at Exodus 20, verse 8. We're at the Bible Hub, and if you go to that, you click on interlinear, and Exodus 20, verse 8, Hebrew reads from right to left. So remember, the day, Sabbath, and then to keep it holy. This last phrase, 6942, Kodash, is to keep it holy. If we click on 6942, we will go to Kodash. We love Strong's for its word identification. These numbers are great for identifying different words, for the phonetic spelling, but the definition in Strong's is not as accurate as we'd like it to be. So if we slide down here, we'll go to the Brown Driver Briggs and find out what that says about this word. So if we look at Exodus 20, verse 8, we see that the word Kodash means observe as holy, keep sacred. It doesn't just mean keep. You have to keep the Sabbath sacred. All right, good to know. Let's jump back to the article. In the article, it goes on to say Deuteronomy chapter 5, and keep the Sabbath day to sanctify it. It uses a different word for keep here. So Dr. Lane, on page 2 of his article, says that Hebrew word shamar means to guard. Well, let's take a look at that. So back to the interlinear, if we go to Deuteronomy 5, verse 12, and we read again from right to left, that first word is shamar, which can be translated keep or observe here, the quick definition, the Sabbath day, to keep it holy. There's that Kodash again. Well, let's take a look at this 8104, and we'll find out shamar is another word that can be translated keep, but that's not as accurate. What about guard? Well, the first 2 uses of shamar in the Bible are Genesis 2:15 and Genesis 3:24. Genesis 2:15, Adam is put in the Garden of Eden to cultivate it, or the King James Version, to dress it and keep it. Well, according to Lane there, he could be saying he needs to cultivate it and to guard it. What would you be guarding your garden from? Well, if it's the Garden of Eden, you might want to guard it from a talking snake that might want to get you to eat some fruit you probably would rather not. So Genesis 3:24, when they get kicked out of the Garden of Eden for apparently not guarding it, it does say that the King James Version said that the cherubim was set up there and a flaming sword, which turned every way to keep the way. King James Version saying that's to keep the way. I think guard is better. The flaming sword was kept to guard the way so they couldn't go to the tree of life. Very interesting. So guard is definitely a good translation for the word shamar. Back to our article, Lane brings out a third word that's translated keep in verse 15, translated from another Hebrew word, asah, Strong 6213, which means to do, to make, to act. So let's take a look at that. We'll jump back to Deuteronomy 5:15, again in the interlinear. And this is the end of the Sabbath commandment in the Deuteronomy 5 version. And if you slide down to the end of that verse, it does say to keep the Sabbath day. The verse ends with to keep the Sabbath day, but this word to keep is another word, asah. So what does 62:13 mean? Well, asah there means, let's take a look in the Brown Driver Briggs. And interestingly, if you go down on the Englishman's Concordance, it will show the first 25 uses of this word in the Bible. If we slide down to the bottom of those, it indicates that this word asah is used 2,628 times. If you want to see them all, you click on that button. But let's take a look at this Deuteronomy 5 version. So if I do Command F or Control F on a PC and type 5:15 here, I will see if Deuteronomy 5:15 is parsed out here in the definition side. Not all 2,600 definitions are going to be parsed out here. Let's see if Deuteronomy 5:15 is one. And I go down to the third use here. Yes, I see Deuteronomy 5:15. And the better definition is to observe or celebrate. So if I jump back here, that commandment ends with to observe the Sabbath or to celebrate the Sabbath. Dr. Lane makes a great point. Let's jump back over to our article. And he points out Exodus 31 verses 14 and 16 also talk about the word shomar, to guard and protect the Sabbath day. He brings out two more definitions. One is chogeg that was used in Leviticus 23:39, and a fifth word, Shabbath, which is used in Leviticus 25:2. These are 5 different ways the word keep in English is not as accurate as it needs to be. So the first 2 pages are basically on 5 different uses of the word keep. Then he gets into breaking the Sabbath. So if our common expression, keeping the Sabbath, is not biblically accurate, what about another much used expression, breaking the Sabbath? And he asks if we've looked into the Bible to see if there is a place where breaking the Sabbath is mentioned, and in fact, there is only one place it is mentioned, and it's a false accusation against the Messiah. So he jumps into the breaking the Sabbath. If we jump in to page 3, he talks about breaking the Sabbath, and what about Sabbath breaking today? Then he gets into the Sabbath as a sign between God and Israel. And finally, page 4, is it our Sabbath? And page 5, he finishes up with, is Sabbath observance all that's required? So this article does a great job at helping us to understand more accurately how to keep the Sabbath day holy.